Welcome to Typecasting, where we're typing our favorite fictional characters on the Enneagram and taking on pop culture by the numbers.
In the lay of a picturesque ridge lies a small, unpretentious winery, one that pampers its fruit like its own bébés. Hi, I'm Moira Rose. Oh, I'm losing it, but you get the idea.
That was incredible. I had no idea you could do that. Oh my gosh. That was so amazing. Well, that phenomenal Moira impression, that is Lucas Graydon. And he would be the best of the Rose children in both dramatics and kindness, and he wouldn't have to. You wouldn't even have a character arc. You'd just be there. You'd be great all the way through.
Well, thank you. And that's your co-host, Mirjana Tumatua, who I would love to cast as Sally Bowles in my community theater production of Cabaret.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you. I love, the theater, but I've never seen Cabaret.
Neither have I, but I feel like I see it in every piece of media I've been consuming recently. I just watched Love, Simon for the first time, and they were doing Cabaret, and for this I rewatched the Cabaret episode of Schitt's Creek, so I know like the idea of the opening number really well, but I think that's about it.
Absolutely. Well, let's get started with our second round of Schitt's Creek characters.
Oh, cannot wait.
I would love to introduce our first character, Moira Rose, our favorite soap opera dropout. The thing about Moira is she will not let us forget that she was once a character in a soap opera and that she is a raging, beautiful, amazing celebrity. Even if, she wasn't maybe as great as she remembers sometimes. But we love Moira. She's a crazy woman. She's the mother of both David Rose and Alexis Rose, married to Johnny Rose, the love of her life. And I am so curious, Lucas, she's so much going on. Who you think she is on the Enneagram?
Oh, no, I love Moira so much. But when I got down to like trying to figure out what her type was, I actually got a little lost. I think, though, I'm going to start with the type 3. The performer. I don't know if there's a better word for Moira Rose than the performer. She is always out and loud and proud and just all eyes are on her. And if they're not, she will make sure that all eyes turn to her. The thing that does draw me away from the 3 a little bit is that I think Moira is so unapologetically herself at all times and never really pays much mind to what other people might think of her. And I think we see 3s as very conscious of others' views of them, and they very much care about how other people perceive them. And I don't think Moira much cares. So I do wonder if she is a type 4, loves the flair for dramatics and loves being unapologetically herself. But where I first started was that 3, I think with the wing 4, but I don't know. What do you think?
That is so funny that you say that. I feel like she does care a lot of what people think of her, or that at least she is remembered. So I kind of was I spent a lot of time in the 3 zone. She is definitely a performer. She definitely wants everyone's attention. And I think the reason you might even say that is she's just not very good at understanding what other people would want. She thinks everyone respects someone who was a star. You know what I mean? And instead of like some of these people would really appreciate her, especially in Schitt's Creek, which is a small town in North America, they would appreciate her being, a good mother or a pillar in the community, but she thinks everyone just wants her to be a star constantly. I think of like the Moira's Roses garden.
Yes.
Apostrophe S everywhere you can possibly fit one. And she did take that really well, which I think was just a beautiful testament to her story and where she ends up versus where she starts, but just how often and frequently she doesn't realize what people want, but she wants people to want her and she wants all the attention. I think of the scene where she sings Danny Boy at a funeral.
Oh, Danny Boy, the pipes are calling from where to where.
Because they've never met the person who has passed away. And they just are like, what are we supposed to do here? And she so effortlessly takes the attention and wows the crowd. And like, that is the most three thing you could possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, I do also believe she is a wing 4, if only because she does not have a selfless bone in her body to be a 2. What do you think, Lucas, on the wings?
No, I think that's a great argument. You help me kind of feel better about that type 3. And I was actually also just reviewing kind of our cheat sheet and talking about some of the basic core needs of the different types. And I think the type 3, they really need to appear or be successful. And the type 4 really needs to be understood. And I think that Moira cares much more and desires much more to appear successful than she does worry about being understood. I think she knows that nobody's ever going to fully understand her, and she's okay with that.
Exactly.
I think you're right that she definitely falls more into that type 3. And I actually did wonder if she had a wing 2, mainly because, and the scene that came to mind for me was in the cabaret episode when Stevie is kind of opening up to Moira about some of her insecurities, and Moira just tells her, you know, I never thought I would say this about anybody in this town, but you, Stevie, are cool. And she, I think, has some really beautiful moments over the series, especially as we see her character arc grow, where she has that, not only the maternal instinct, but that really empathetic instinct, and she's able to really like see to the heart of people in a way that I wondered if she had that type 2, but I don't think anything can supersede her love of drama when it comes to like what her wing is. I think she's definitely a 3 with the wing 4. She's just so in touch with her emotions. I think that her wing 4 gives her. She's never afraid to express her emotions when her wigs are being taken from her in the very first episode, or after she almost thinks that she almost died in the closet when the smoke is happening. And she's in the closet because she's so distraught about her movie getting shelved, and she's just so emotional and so sad about it that she just has to be like hidden in the closet with her emotions. So I definitely think she has that wing 4.
I think so too, and I think that she also is incredibly genuine. I think she has that 3-4 where it's like, please like me, but also like I'm not adapting to you of a 4.
Right.
You know,
right.
like a 4 is known as the individualist. They love being authentic, and that's who they are. And they just like their fear and what they work to avoid always is being ordinary. And like that is so Moira, to the point that like now that I'm talking about her wing 4, I think like it's fairly, like, I would not be surprised if she was a 4, but I think that I still think we're in a good place with the 3 wing 4.
I think that Moira with the 3 versus the 4, because I think you're totally right. She's like right down the middle. Speaking as a 4, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I feel like 4s sometimes have a sense of envy. I mean, envy is really core to the type 4, feeling like there's a part of them that like is different or is wrong or can never be fixed or fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And I think that Moira just has such a like confidence and security and strength in herself. And I don't think she often finds herself as envious of other people. I think she walks around on a pedestal looking down at the people of Schitt's Creek. And we definitely see her like come off that pedestal a couple times and kind of get to other people's levels as her arc progresses. But I think that she's rooted in that 3 and just borrows a lot of those characteristics from the type 4.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think you're right. I think we can shake on this, Lucas. I think she's a 3-wing 4.
She is so much fun. I just
and
love
such
her so
an
much.
icon. You know, I do too. I think she's one of the best characters. Maybe a little bit underrated, but maybe perhaps not. She's just so great. I love her. Well, Lucas, who is next? Let's talk about her second half.
Of course, I can hear her yelling, John. But we are talking about Johnny Rose, the patriarch of the Rose family, and he is somebody who, I think is really surprised after they move is maybe a kind word, after they are evicted and forced to move to Schitt's Creek. I think he's really surprised to find out that his family is not as strong as he thought it was. I think he really thought he was doing a good job, and he always cares most about the well-being of his family. He wants to take care of them and protect them in whatever way he can. I love when we see in Merry Christmas Johnny Rose that he just wants, in that instance, to get into the Christmas spirit and celebrate and provide some joy for his family. And I think he's really caring. He's a protector. He's a provider. He's also a great businessman, which we see as he starts to expand his empire of motels with Stevie near the end of the season. I like when he finally kind of gets to be in his element as a businessman and kind of making those pitches and things like that.
I'm not coming to you for charity here. I'm coming to you with an opportunity. There is value in these motels. And if you're wondering how I'm so sure, my family and I have been staying in a motel for the past 3 years. And I wouldn't trade our stay there for anything. That's how strongly I believe in this idea. As Stevie can attest, if my family can find peace and comfort staying at a motel, anyone can. And I can only wish that one day soon you and your families can experience the love and simple pleasures that come with staying, even for one night, at a Rosebudd motel.
Where every stay feels like home.
Thank you for your time.
And so I'm really interested to hear where you think he falls on the Enneagram.
Yeah, if I hadn't heard, my gut reaction was just a 9. I think he reminds me so much of some of our good friends who are 9s, one specifically. And that's where I went to at first, and just how he supports everyone in his family and so easily can take a step back and assess what situation is happening and how to give peace. I love that. I just think all of the people around him are super strong characters. Very dramatic, very over the top.
Yes.
And Johnny Rose is not necessarily over the top. He's I watched it in chronological order. So by the end, he's just a teddy bear for me and very sweet. And he really wants everyone to go after their dreams, and he speaks to them. But I think overall he is a peacemaker. He doesn't want to rock the boat too much. He lets everyone else have the spotlight. But I can also see that too as well. When I think about the 9 and the 2, I think a lot of people get confused on which one they are, right? Because they're like, okay, I love to serve others. I love being around people, but I just want to love on them. I think the one we see with the 9 is that they like to keep the peace, but they're avoiding conflict, where the 2 just wants to be loved and needed and acknowledging their need. So I kind of see where Johnny, when he no longer had his business to pour himself into that he loved so much, where maybe he started to love the others around him a little bit more, be more attentive to what was going on there. I don't know. I'm stuck between those 2.
Interesting.
What do you think?
Okay, yeah. So that's interesting. I had 9 was my first thought as well.
Yes.
The other numbers I thought about The 2 didn't really cross my mind, but I could see an argument for it. The other 2 numbers that crossed my mind were the 6. I think just
how could I forget the 6?
And I think that he has some really beautiful qualities of the 6 and the type 1. And I think the reason I had the type 1 is because I think if he is a 9, he's a 9 wing 1. And I think that just comes from his love of the boardroom and kind of like business and skill and strategy. And I think he takes on some of the really beautiful, productive skills of the type 1. I don't know that I think it's actually his core number, but that was just one that was in my mind. But I agree with you. I think that I would land on the 9. It is interesting because he does have some moments, I think, where he just wants to help people. And when he feels like it's not working, he gets frustrated and he gets upset. And he's like, I just wanted to do something nice for the family. But I think that you're also right. And I think that's where I came to the 9 is he's surrounded by all of these big personalities and such big people that I think he almost has to take on that role of the type 9 to keep them together. Like, I don't know who could have kept them together if not for a type 9, because that is the gift of the 9, is that no matter how different or big different personalities might be, they see the way in which to bring all those different people together. I'm also thinking Johnny can sometimes struggle to tell people no, which I think is definitely indicative of both types. I'm just thinking about like all the times he ends up with Roland and he's like, no, Roland, that's not what I meant. Like, and Roland is just always like kind of butting in or taking on extra stuff. And so I don't know that gives me any more clarity between the 9 and the 2, but my gut is still kind of in that type 9. I don't know.
You know, my gut was in the 9 as well. So I think we just move forward with the 9. I also probably would say the 1. I think of like how he thinks things are in such a particular order, specifically how he is very old school. We find out when he goes to kick up the new business in this last season, which I think is indicative of a 1. Sometimes when they're so strict in their ways and who they are and what they think is right, sometimes I can imagine that would not evolve as quickly as someone like, you know, a 4 who's like who goes with the wind, only sees in grays, like let's just move on to the next thing. So I'd probably say he's a 9-1 as well.
I'm thinking too, and I don't know that this is, I just have so much fun with these characters and I'm just like, oh, remember when this happened? Remember that happened? But I love when David is just like writing everything off as a business expense and he's like, that's not a write-off.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good one. I love it.
I love it too.
Okay.
And he is, I think he's a great example of a 9 and a 2. It's funny. I'm good with where we landed. And who is last but not least at all? Actually, I'm glad we had these 3 characters together because I love Johnny's relationship with our next character.
Absolutely. So Johnny's business partner, David's best friend that we alluded to in the last episode. I love her so much. I almost named my puppy after her. Stevie Bud. We love her so much. Stevie is the recipient of a motel that whether she likes it or not, of the Bud Hotel, which is the hotel that the Roses have been living at the entire series. And we see them going from this extravagant mansion to this tiny motel where they have to do pretty much everything themselves. I assume it has a weird smell to it. And the thing I love about Stevie is that she is just so chill. And she reminds me a lot of people who love people like, I love people like her because you and I are very like on 10 all the time. Yes. Sometimes we mellow out, but most of the time we're on 10 and really outgoing. And so I love those people who are like counteractive, calm, state the obvious, like bring you down to earth. And it's great. So I love Stevie, and I'm so curious with all those qualities, Lucas, what you think her Enneagram type is.
Okay, so when I started with Stevie, one of the numbers that bounced around in my mind, and I alluded to that conversation earlier with Moira and Stevie, where she just tells Stevie, you are never afraid to be 100% yourself. And I know we've even talked about it with Moira a little bit. The way that authenticity plays such a large part in the type 4, I thought, okay, maybe Stevie's a 4. And I think a lot of times, and it's because you and I think don't always present like typical 4s. We forget like what the stereotypical 4 looks like, and is
for sure.
Like more often 4s can be kind of quieter, maybe more melancholy, maybe more morose or dramatic, but I'm not sure she is a 4. I think she's actually a type 9. Similar to Johnny, but I know we talked a little bit about how type 9s, I think, can sometimes feel like their life is on autopilot. And I think that we really see Stevie struggle with that as the series goes on. And she's like, I didn't ask for this motel. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Is this even what I want to be doing? Maybe I want to be a flight attendant. And as she starts to see David and Patrick get engaged, and she's like, where's my life headed?
That's really not it, Miss Rose. It's just... I wish I wasn't watching it all happen from behind the desk, It feels like everyone's growing up all around me.
I think she has that 9 wing 8 where she knows how to like kind of give it back to David and pick on David when she needs to. And I love her friendship with David, and I think that they have that really cool connection there. However, I could also see the type 4. I think, like we talked about earlier, the 4 struggles a lot with envy. And I think that in comparison, and I think that Stevie does find herself comparing her life to the life of her peers and her colleagues and wondering if she's doing enough, wondering if she's maybe good enough. So I think those are the 2 numbers that I'm torn between. What do you think?
It reminds me of a lot of conversations I've actually had. Most of the time I say, if someone can't figure out their Enneagram type, I usually I'm like, oh, why don't I take a second look at the 4 and the 9? Because both of them 9 specifically takes on characteristics of many others. That's why she's at the top of the Enneagram circle. But then at the same time, 4s, because they have such a hard time fitting into a box, they don't love being typed either. So I think both 4 and the 9. And I can think of like several people in my life where I'm like, who've actually mistyped themselves as 4 or 9 and then like swapped it at the end. And I think that that's why I'm having the trickiest time with her. My gut reaction was also the 4. I think she's a little more melancholy, is very empathetic to what's going on around her in a way that I think she can understand Alexis. She thinks they're ridiculous, but she can understand Alexis's point of view and David's point of view when they're quarreling, and Johnny's, and even like Roland. And so I see like a specialness in her being able to see that in others and have those sit down moments with many of the characters where they have the aha moment. Which I started saying all of that as a 4 characteristic, but then I'm like, wait, 9s do that too.
Right.
Oh my goodness. I'm having a hard time with this because I came in pretty much taking 4, and I was like going to make an argument for 4s and 9s and how they're different. And now I'm like, oh wait, maybe she is a 9. Let's talk about wings and maybe we can get there. I think if she's a 9, she probably has a wing 8. I do think she can kick people to the curb.
Well, and
stand up for herself.
And if she's a 4, though, I do see that wing 3 with her performance in Cabaret and with her like discovering that kind of passion that she didn't know she had. And I think she's really resistant to it at first, to being in the spotlight. But I think once she finds it, she like feels renewed by her time in Cabaret. Do you agree?
I think you're taking the word like performer a little too literally there.
Okay, fair.
Like, I think like she didn't want to do that at all. I don't think she's doing it to win anyone over. Or if she were a 4, I think she'd probably be a wing 5. And I don't have a ton of evidence of that, except for the fact that I don't think she's a wing 3. I think she like didn't want to do the show, and then she did.
True.
And then she loved it.
True.
But I don't think she was doing that for any reason. We'll see like a 3 do a performance. It wasn't, it's the opposite of the reasons that threw my in. I think she might have discovered more of herself, but because that discovery of herself took so long, I think that's indicative of a type 9. Like, I think at the same point when you're saying sometimes 9s feel as though their life is on autopilot, or they're putting things off, and when they're not necessarily in health, I think that could be what we see in Stevie, and then she comes to terms with that in season at the end.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, I think that's a good point. I'm thinking about the types and their core motivations, and I think that in the type 4, we really see that desire to be understood, like fully known, and the fear of being ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the type 9, their life is often ruled by the idea of conflict and wanting to escape conflict, and always kind of tamp out conflict when they do see it. And I don't know that I see that drive or that fear of conflict in Stevie. Like I think that she likes picking on David, which obviously doesn't mean that she is just written off as not being a 9, but I think that she can access her emotions in a way where, like, I think that's one of the key differences. As you were trying to kind of point out differences between the 4 and the 9, I think a key difference is that 4s are all in their feelings, and 9s have a hard time accessing their feelings because they kind of back off so that they don't have to feel any negative emotions. And I do think that Stevie can get upset. She sometimes doesn't want to express those emotions to people around her because I think she's afraid of being vulnerable with people, which is odd because 4s are very vulnerable. I'm so torn.
We keep talking ourselves out of. We keep getting close to the talking ourselves out of it. I feel best about the 9, and it's a gut thing. But I would love for Stevie to come to life and tell us what she thinks.
Yes,
because
please.
I'm not really sure, because in the same way that I was talking about earlier, I have plenty of close friends who are pretty similar to Stevie, who were on the 9 and the 4 cusp. And I will say, 1 definitely is like 100% a 4 now, but I don't know. I think I feel comfortable settling on 9. Do you feel comfortable? A 9 wing 8.
9 wing 8, because I think I feel stronger about the wing 8 than I do about the wing 5.
Yes, that's very similar.
I can see a whole picture there better, I think.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh no, we're done with our episode, but we have exciting news, guys.
Oh my goodness, this is big news.
I have like butterflies. Guys, we found our soulmates.
We basically did, and we are doing our very first ever collaboration starting next week.
Absolutely. Well, if you're on Glee TikTok, you've absolutely heard of our new friends. And if you're really just in the podcasting world at all, you've probably heard about our new friends that are going to be joining us next week as we cover Finn, Rachel, and Quinn. Who are we talking to?
Yes, we are going to be joined by Lena and Ian from the Recovering Gleek podcast. If you are a Glee fan and you somehow have not heard about them yet, you need to go check them out. They will be joining us next week, and we cannot wait.
Absolutely. We're so excited, and we can't wait for you guys to listen in. They're amazing, and we take your listenership so seriously, and we would not introduce some weirdos to you guys. They're awesome, and we're so excited.
They are. I'm like nervous because I respect and love their podcast so much. I'm like, really? You're coming on? So we cannot wait, you all. This is going to be so big. So much fun. Can't wait to kick off our next group of shows and characters. We're heading over to McKinley High.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk to you soon, guys.
Can't wait. Bye.
Can't wait.
Thank you for listening to Typecasting. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at TypecastingPod, where you can vote in our weekly polls. Leave a review, and be sure to join us next week when we take on more pop culture by the numbers.